Hey, welcome to the Push Pull Sales and Marketing Podcast. I'm Marcello.
And I'm Sherry. In each episode, we provide you with sales and marketing strategies that you can implement immediately into your own business. Today, we're going to be talking about territory management for outside sales reps, which is Marcello and his territory, so to speak, I guess. I don't have much experience with this.
Okay. I'm going to keep this episode really simple. We're going to cover a lot of R's and what that means in terms of working a specific territory as an outside sales rep. So before I even dive into the R's, one thing you want to take into mind is, of course, the Pareto principle. If you've been in sales for any period of time, maybe a manager might have told you of the 80-20 rule. You're kind of looking at me funny.
No, that was the one that I asked for a quote for Instagram the other day, and that was what you gave me. But I had never heard of it prior to that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So the whole Pareto principle, the way it works is typically 80% of your business is going to come from 20% of your customers. 20% of your customers are probably going to be
80% of your business.
Are going to be 80% of your business, and then exactly, because let's rewind. All right, so it works that way. So 100% of prospects, right? 80% of those are not going to be customers, most likely. So
right.
That 20% are going to be customers. Of that 20% that's remaining, 20% of those are going to be 80% of your business. So it works in terms of prospecting, and it works in terms of your business too.
Of like how often things are going to work out. So when you go visit 10 different places in a day, you might only get 2 clients out of that. And not even necessarily that day, but, in the long term. Not even that day.
And then overall of your client mix, a lot of times there's 20% or about 1 in 5 of your clients represent 80% of your business. So, it works both ways. Screwed that part up, which is good because that wasn't an R. But so the first thing you want to take into account is routing. So when it comes to territory management, you want to figure out exactly where you're going and really work things out on paper first before you even start just going and knocking on doors. So there's a lot of really good tools out there. One of the easiest things you can do is go on Google Maps.
I was going to say Google Maps has to make your life a lot easier. Like, I can go on my iPhone and Google Maps, I can enter multiple destinations. I can easily, switch them around and see which one might work better first or second or third. I can see how long it's going to take me to get to each one, compared to, even a couple of years ago, that wasn't the same resource it is today. Yeah,
and I mean, it works really well. There's also some other good routing tools out there. One I actually heard of from an old sales rep was Road Warrior, and that also what that'll do, that'll actually optimize the route, because with Google you still need to go in and
do it
actually swap things around, but you still need to work it out on paper too, because as you go and as you start off, what you're going to find is, okay, well, this account is only good to see on Tuesday, or this decision maker is only there on Thursday. Evenings are good here, whatever is good there. So you kind of have to build all that into account, so you're not.
The research, as I'm looking at your notes and skipping ahead, I'm assuming that's the research.
No, it's not. No.
So I would say that is research that needs to go into it ahead of time. You need to know who to see, who's available.
Yeah, but
when
it's
they're
research
available.
that's going toward routing. I had something different involved.
We need another R.
I have 5 R's. So the first one. So the first one, like we said, is routing. So you want to get your routing done right first. And I think for every minute you spend on routing, you probably save, 10, 15 minutes in the field. So it's definitely worthwhile. It's definitely something you want to do and you want to establish right off the bat.
Well, and it makes you look professional, too, to your supervisors or your managers or even the people out in the field. If you know where you're going, you know what your next few days are going to look like. It just shows that you're on top of things, you're thinking through things, and you can give your prospects, if they're asking for a little bit of insight as to when you'll be stopping in, you can say that with more confidence without screwing up the rest of your day.
Exactly. exactly. So the second R is resources. So resources, you want to think everything you have at your disposal, what you can use in terms of not only just marketing materials, but what you can use really to touch base with customers. Because you have to think, if I have a pretty large territory and I have a pretty large geography, there might be some areas that you really can't realistically see all the time, maybe to see like 1 or 2 customers. So you really have to utilize everything that's kind of at your fingertips. So you have the usual stuff. You have mailers, you have email, you have, phone calls, you have LinkedIn. You have a lot of other resources.
What about FaceTime?
FaceTime?
Do people do that? Are they comfortable with that?
FaceTiming a client?
Mm-hmm.
I've personally never used FaceTime.
I've curious.
I've used GoToMeeting.
Right. I feel like that's a little more standard in business, that people would like set up something a little more formal versus like, hey, I can't make it to you because, maybe you're 5 hours away, but I could jump on a FaceTime call with you.
I've only used FaceTime to show the kids what kind of Pokemon I caught while away, or what kind of stuff I got them while I was traveling. And talk to you, of course, too. But yeah, so...
Yeah, we don't use FaceTime very much.
Yeah, that's funny, too, because before you're like, why are you FaceTiming me? I'm like, I don't know, it's fun. But no, for a client, I've never used that. I've used other tools. There's WebEx. You have Adobe. You have a couple different tools available that you can utilize for that. But you want to use that especially for ones that are also further out, and really leverage again. If you can't be out there in that area, you might want to send the mail or send the marketing material.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you should lose touch with them. Like, you shouldn't be like, they're too far away, I'll just focus on what's closer.
Exactly.
I mean, you want to keep it warm.
Exactly, because there might be someone that is further out.
See me, like, all these sales terms.
Yeah, she's
warm.
She's learning. So yeah, you might find a client that's further out, but they also might be in your 80-20. So they might be that 20% customers, that's 80% of your business. So you don't want to neglect those people. Another thing right off the bat is, in terms of your resources, have everything available and have extra ones. You never know when something will come up where you need a resource, you need something to kind of show to a client. I remember I was on the field a while back, and my manager was there, and he's like, oh, we're going to see his customer, blah, blah, do you have this? And I just happened to have extra ones in my trunk just in case, just to have that piece of material. So always have extras, always have everything ready, have everything handy. And obviously the adage when it does come to selling in the field and being outside, if you're going to say something, show something too. You don't want to just only go off of just talking and face-to-face. The more varied visuals and different ways you can explain a concept, the easier it is for a customer to kind of understand that. So you kind of jump the gun to the next one. The third R is research. So when it comes to research, what I'm talking about is seeing who the key stakeholders are within an account. Some of that you can do through networking within the company or within the business that you're looking to go after, or it even could be a normal organization. Let's say you're selling to schools. You can find out pretty quickly that okay, who's the principal, all that stuff you see on the website, who's the administrator, who's this, and then you can find out who are the bigwigs on the school board. You can find that out online, but you can also find that by stopping by. So let's say you're selling to school districts or something like that, or whatever. But utilize what you have available online. LinkedIn's a really good tool. You can see how people are connected. Google search, check out the website. It also helps too when you are seeing a business for the first time, or maybe seeing someone again, just knowing a little bit more about that person, and maybe checking out their Facebook or their LinkedIn without being the, hey, you see a fish, do you like fishing? And you see a picture of that, but you can kind of like sneak it, certain things in the conversation if you do know. Like, for example, if someone's a really big supporter of youth baseball, and you happen to have a kid in baseball, you might want to throw that in there, and
yeah, it
couldn't hurt. So the research is, again, how the organization, how the hierarchy works that you're going after, and also about the individual. So that would be the other R. Now, the next R, and
It's a little bit of a stretch.
Kind of. Not really. Not really. You want to have the right timing.
I meant a little bit of a stretch for your R.
Oh, what do you mean? Right timing, right frequency.
Okay.
Those are R words.
I'll buy it.
Okay. So that's actually 2. It's a 2-for-1 deal. So in terms of right timing and right frequency, you have to know when you have key buying moments and when really is a good time to kind of see those customers. So if you have a seasonal product, you need to have the timing right where you're in there beforehand, so the customer can have enough time to make whatever is the right decision. Or if you're in a certain, I don't know, like Medicare open enrollment or something like that, right. Like you have a certain window of opportunity, you have to take that.
Well, and then on a smaller scale, just the right timing within the day, within the week. Which times of days are busier for your client that you're going to get pushed to the side, or that they're trying to get other things accomplished, or they're trying to get out the door. And then maybe there's a slower day or time where they're happy to chat with you and willing to hear you out instead of you being a nuisance.
Absolutely. So yeah, having that. Now, one thing I do want to warn a sales or any sales rep on is don't use that right timing as an excuse to not make sales calls, because then you fall into that trap. You're like, oh well, I can't see anybody on a Monday. Oh, I can't see anybody on a Friday. And then, oh, well, Tuesday they're just catching up from Monday, and Wednesdays, who wants to talk on a Wednesday? And, Thursday it's raining, so we had a delay, so don't want to deal with that. So you want to keep that in mind, because, sometimes you have to break the rules. You might even see where it says, like, oh, we don't want to see anybody on, like, Monday or Tuesday. Those aren't good. But if you need to have a key discussion, or if you just need to set an appointment, sometimes just having that, it's fine. Just say, look, I know Mondays aren't good. I just pop in. I just need to set an appointment. I'll be in the area. When is a good time? But again, I was passing through. Next, we talk about right frequency. So this is something that a lot of reps have a hard time figuring out. Like when should I stop by again?
Do you feel like there's a lot of variability?
Yes. So it depends on the size of the account, what you're selling, and just what your level of access is within the account.
And the client themselves.
And the client themselves, yeah, exactly, and what's acceptable too. Sometimes you can pop in some spot every week, and people are fine with that. Some people are okay with you popping in, a couple times during the week, and other times maybe it would be maybe quarterly or maybe semi-annually. You kind of need to figure that. You kind of need to work through and asking other sales reps or other people who are in the same industry definitely helps.
Yeah.
So you can really hone in. So if you're starting off, one of the first things I would do is just ask the people who are doing well. To give you an example,
not the ones that aren't doing well.
Exactly. You don't want to check the bottom of the leaderboard for that. But just to give you an example, so I started off and I'm working in a completely new industry, and the first thing I did, and I'd find the people who were doing very well, and I asked them, okay, what do you do? What are you doing in this situation? Or if you were me and you were starting off, what would you do? So you don't want to feel like you've ever mastered everything, where
Isn't
everything.
That like a Nickelodeon show?
What would you do?
What would you do?
Correct.
They do a whole theme song around it.
Yeah, and I think that was I forget, but I think he had OCD or something, or maybe that's Howie Mandel. I don't know.
I think they both did.
Yeah, okay. They might have, but yeah. No. What would you do?
Was that one where they did all the obstacle courses? And search for flags and all the goop?
No, you're thinking of Guts. You're thinking of Guts.
Maybe.
We're going to have
They all jumble together. We'll go Google it later. Tweet us.
Oh, yeah. What would you do? Have the pie coaster. Yep.
I thought so.
Yep. Okay. You're right. But yeah, I think there might have been goop or slime, but
all right,
regardless.
So are
anyway,
there any
in terms
general rules of frequency?
Probably not.
Okay.
Go ahead. What were you going to say?
I was say once a month, does it just really varies based on your industry and what you're selling and who you're selling to?
Yeah, so you have to think if you're in the service industry and you have a fairly repetitive business with the customer, and you're
probably in communication anyway, just for operations.
Exactly. So you probably already have touch points with them, but when you're trying to kind of first establish that actual relationship. It's kind of like a dance a little bit. You have to have some back and forth, because you don't want to be that stalker guy or that stalker girl, equal opportunity. But you do want to let them know, because when you're new into either a new territory, again, you could have been working in the same industry, in the same business, in the same company forever, but maybe your territory changed. Maybe things that got shuffled around, and you're the new guy on the block. You still want to establish, like, hey, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be around. So sometimes customers are going to need that frequency. So having that in place. So if you're newer, having a couple more visits in the beginning, I don't think that hurts. And again, say, look, hey, I'm new here. Can you help me out? I'm just looking for more information. And then let them know too. Set expectations, like, I'm in this area all the time. I'm just popping in as a resource for you. Then it doesn't seem like as crazy, like when you're like maybe there like twice in the same week.
Right.
But yeah, so you want to figure that out. So the right timing, the right frequency, and one of my favorite R's, reason to go back. So this actually ties in terms of frequency. So you never want to leave a meeting. You never want to not have a reason to come back and actually talk to the customer. So I mean, if you don't have anything new to say, it's terrible, especially sometimes in the beginning too. If you're just kind of creating that actual relationship, another R word, and you don't have rapport quite yet.
Ooh, you're on a roll. Do you have another one?
I do, but I'm going to hold them back. But yeah, so you need to have some kind of excuse to come back. So maybe it would be just tailing off and ending a discussion a little bit earlier too. It's kind of funny. I was listening to Persuasion by Dr. Robert Cialdini. He wrote the book Influence as well, and they studied this one like waiter that could like remember every single like thing, like it didn't matter how big like the order was. Like he'd be like, all right, you ordered this, you ordered that, whatever, and he delivered it, or not, I guess served it, yeah, because he's a server, right? So then they asked him afterward, if he could remember what anybody ordered, and he couldn't. So people actually have a tendency to hold on and remember things if it's not quite finished. So when you have that meeting, you kind of want to leave them in suspense a little bit too, and they're going to retain more information if they feel like there's not exactly like a whole conclusion.
Right.
The same way how like people like want to know how stories, and he was saying the same thing, like he's like, when I was a professor, I would always have like a story at the end. It's kind of funny because 5 minutes before class, people are wrapping up and stuff like that, and then the one class, like I try to do it, they're like, whoa, no, you can't leave until we figure out how this works out or how to solve that problem. So it's kind of the same thing. So you want to have a reason to come back or something where you might have some loose end, especially in the beginning, and then obviously later on you want to continue up too, versus, hey, I'm just popping in, and again, lay out expectations. So it'd be like, I'm in the area a lot, and I just want to just kind of earn your business, or I want to I just want to just get a little bit more time with you, or maybe discuss this further. So the first appointment, if you're in a shorter selling cycle, you might just want to just get information. And the second one, and you might just want to say, hey, what I'm going to do for you here is I'm going to basically provide some of the findings from our first discussion, and some key insights and stuff that you can do, right away, and what my company can do in addition to that, and then maybe lastly might be installation and follow up and stuff like that. And then another R, maybe you'll come back and get referrals, right. Just circling back, but always have a reason to come back, and
tell them what that's going to be, I'm assuming.
Exactly. Like I'll give you an example. Like I just started, and a customer, someone in the support office asked me a question that I didn't know the answer to. I was like, you stumped me here. So then that's another thing too. You don't want to be afraid to say that you don't know something.
Right. Just like, you were outlining why you were there, what your purpose was. I mean, you're, like you said, I'm here, I'm hoping to earn your business. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with saying that. Why not be upfront? Why not be genuine about it, instead of them waiting for you to flip the sales pitch switch? And, that doesn't ever have to change. Just have the conversation. You're an intelligent human being. I'm an intelligent human being. Here's what I'm here for. I'm
not really an intelligent human being, but we'll let that slide.
So, yeah, I mean, we talk about that a lot, but I think it deserves a reiteration.
Absolutely. But again, I had another reason to come back, just to go and say, like...
answer that question. And then that follow-up, too, shows that, like, you are still thinking about them. You care about their questions. You care about what they have to say. You are there to be a resource and to help them.
Exactly.
As well. It's a two-way street.
And the other thing, I mean, in terms of if you're, just providing, let's just say you're providing additional resources. I mean, remember, people today, the attention spans, everything's not that good, so they might not get the most use out of if you drop off like 3 resources and 5 widgets, they're not going
to read a pamphlet.
They're not going to read every they're not going to read every single thing. But if you kind of break it up into chunks, it becomes a lot easier. I was going to have another R. Oh, okay. So I have another R for that. Or it could also be RP or NP. And this goes back to just selling in general. You don't want to put on that sales voice. You just want to be a normal person. Like it's funny like how easy that is to kind of get lost. Like you don't want to be like the fake like, hey, how's it going? No, if you're gonna say, hey, how's it going? Like you have to like genuinely like have that as part of your, like vernacular. Like for example, like I never say, hi, my name's Marcello. How do you do? I never say how do you do. If I say it, it sounds unnatural. But just kind of be a normal person and don't try to force things. And silence sometimes can be your friend in that regard too, where you can just listen. So those are just some general tips in terms of outside sales and prospecting. I'll give you some quick do's and don'ts as well, but did want to outline a great resource that can help you out with that. If you are an outside sales rep, I do recommend the new book by Jeb Blunt. That's called Fanatical Prospecting, and we're going to have a link to that on the website here. I believe that's pushpullsales.com/fanatical prospecting. So the book's Fanatical Prospecting.
Yeah, just all one word.
All one word.
pushpullsales.com/fanatical prospecting. That is our Amazon affiliate link that'll take you there. So that you can buy it. But what is it about?
It's exactly about that. Like if you're an outside sales rep, or it gives you tools on making the most of your territory, making most of calling time, and remembering, of course, when it does come to outside sales, the 90-day rule. Some places it's the 60-day rule. Are you familiar with that?
Nope.
Okay. I've kind of given this analogy in the past, where if you're in sales. It's kind of like whenever you like start talking to a customer, it's like you're throwing out a deal like 45, 60 days or maybe 90 days down into the future. So in the beginning, what you do is you throw a bunch of footballs, you throw a bunch of deals down, you're just throwing them down the pike. And typically what happens is 60, maybe 90 days, you start making money, and that's when the money comes in, because that's when those deals come in.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
I think I remember you talking about this, and then you start slacking off.
And then you stop. So sometimes, you talk about right frequency or the right timing. When you don't have enough in your pipeline, you're going back to the same accounts again that aren't in that 80-20 rule. Like these are people, it's just not the right time, or just not a good prospect. And you're like, I don't get it. Like I've tried, like I need a new closing technique, or I'm going to need this, or I'm going to need that. And you kind of forget that. So again, it's great book, great resource for anyone who is an outside sales rep, in terms of prospecting, and it talks about different tools and different resources and, and different things you can do. But it's a really, really good book. And I believe Anthony Iannarino, that's one of the ones he rattled off too. He rattled off like 10 things like rapid fire when we had him on the show. But some general advice in that regard. One thing you don't want to do is you don't want to crazy chase after appointments just to have a full calendar if that appointment isn't going to be worth your time, or if that appointment's going to take you all over the place. So a lot of times the customer,
being negative, like if your frequency is too high, don't feel like you have to fill your schedule just to pester people.
Exactly. But sometimes too, like what'll happen is the customer will be like, oh, can I see you like tomorrow or something like that? Like I need you to come in for this,
right?
And it's very, very easy to kind of jump the gun. And again, you're going to see yourself as a more valuable resource too. If people be like, oh, well, I have to respect this guy's time. Like other people want his time too. Like if you say,
right,
I'm
you're
available,
saying like, no, I'm going to be in a different region that day. I won't be able to make it in. Can we set up
exactly
a time next week?
Another one we have is of course, you want to take the numbers and you always want to think on paper, but you also have to figure real world experience. So, for example, if you're managing a territory and you have some existing customers, you have existing customer base, you know, if you look at the numbers and one customer's down and maybe, I don't know, and this happened in the past, the customer's whole establishment caught fire. So manufacturing was down for a very long time for them while they were recovering. You know, that's not something I need to like go in and stop by and be like, hey, why are the numbers down? Or likewise, you know, where numbers are up, you know, on certain accounts, you have to say, is this because the market grew by that amount and I'm just keeping in line with that? Or is that because of something I had done? So you want to keep that in account.
How much do you keep track of, like, what you've done, what's worked, like, where you've been, like, or is a lot of it just in your head? No.
So, I mean, you definitely utilize a CRM or definitely, like, have things written down on paper. I mean, I have, for me, I don't want to, like, toot my own horn here, but I have a fairly good memory in that regard. Like, I'll remember what color.
You can remember what the score was of your wrestling match in 8th grade or something.
That's funny. I was talking to a kid about that, and I said, I don't remember kids who I lost to in 6th grade. And he's like, I do. And I was like, all right, that's fun. But I'll remember, like, you know, like people and, like, you know, like what they do and certain things about their family and, you know, like other things I said. Well,
and probably key points is, like, things that are going to be important to you, similar to, like, this is still useful information.
Yeah, but always have the notes, and always have the notes from the last conversation, too. I mean, I don't think any customer is ever going to be offended. And that's another thing too. I mean, it's good to say in the beginning, I picked this up at it was a training session, and the guy said, you know, not only take notes, but just to kind of build yourself and make yourself more valuable to the customer, just say, hey, do you mind if I take notes? And the customer's like, oh wow, yeah. And then sometimes even the customer will like tell you like, oh, and write this down too, because they want you to get it right. Like the customer like wants you to help them. They don't want you to be there for 20 minutes or however long you're there and waste their time.
And then come back next time and ask the same questions or try to have the same conversations.
Absolutely. So again, excuse me. Think on paper, but also take real world experience. Again, that's looking into the data, looking into prior conversations, and seeing if you're actually moving the needle. Again, everything you do in terms of routing and research and all the past experience and the right frequency, that's going to help you maximize selling time. So when you're out in the field, you have the most time in front of the right customers with the right frequency, you know, and doing things the right way.
I have a question though. How do you know you're doing things the right way? Like, what are some indications that you're doing a good job with your routing, or you're doing a good job with timing and frequency, or you know, you're doing a good job with the reason to come back? Like, how are you gauging that? Because like we said, not even if you're doing things well, not every deal is going to work out, and a lot of times you're waiting, you know, 60-90 days to see if it's panning out.
You have to look at that. You just have to look at the numbers and you have to gauge, and you have to analyze at the end of the day, like, well, what did I do good, and what could I have done better? Because sometimes, again, you can have the right routing, but if you don't have the right message, or it's, you know, you're not talking to the right person, it doesn't matter that you're doing everything else right.
Yeah, but you can't wait like 90 days, so you're just kind of gauging based on the response.
It depends on the industry too. I mean, so just as an example, so you'd want to measure then number of deals coming in, like opportunities, and the quality of those opportunities. So if you're talking and you're engaging, you know, 100 people a week, and you get a hold of them, and you have 15 opportunities that are coming from them, but all 15 opportunities, it's not an ideal fit for your company, and it's like a product like you don't sell, or service like you barely do, or you don't do well, where you're going to be outbid by like 30 people. Like, let's say it's, because sometimes those are the easiest people like to get a hold of too, the ones that are like, oh yeah, I'll let you quote something. I'll let you quote something, I'll let your mom quote something, let your brother, your uncle, your sister. I'm going on Google right now to look up other people who do exactly what you do, and I'm going to get their quotes too. So that would be a good measurement in terms of opportunities if you're in a, you know, business to business, or even just anything. It doesn't have to be business to business, but it could be anything. And so the number of opportunities and the quality of those opportunities, is that where your company fits? Is that a good sized deal? So if you have everything else right, but then, the revenue doesn't match up to, I don't know, your salary, you're not going to last very long.
Right.
The other thing too, going back, your company should have set standards, and your company should have a good idea. And then again, don't go just off of that. Go to the top performers. Ask them. Spend time. Say, hey, what do you do in this situation? Just have every kind of question available, and kind of run things through with them, because you're going to be a lot more successful. Again, following the best people, I think.
And more often than not, they're happy to help. They're happy to share that knowledge. They're glad
not always.
Well, I think especially if you're not sharing a territory or anything like that.
Well, if you have stack rankings and stuff like that, and there's a president's club, or there's some kind of top performer
rewards,
thing. There's some kind of reward thing. Some people might be a little bit, but again, if you kind of have that, you got to have some salesmanship in that regard. You have to convince them. But I think
poor new little dumb salesman that doesn't know what he's doing.
Exactly. But I believe E.T., the hip hop preacher, he says success leaves clues. Success leaves clues. So there's definitely successful people out there and what they're doing. There's definitely evidence of that. So now here are some don'ts in terms of outside sales and territory management. One, you're not involving your managers. You talk about knowing if you are on the right track. If you don't have a manager involved, you don't have a mentor, you don't have someone who's helping you out, you're not going to know if you're on the right track. So don't try to figure everything out on your own. Even if you've been doing things forever too, because if you look, there are actually studies that say the best managers, they're not the best at dividing up territories. That isn't a huge factor. One of the best factors for a manager to help convert business is giving sales reps ideas and resources that will help them switch over accounts that were on the fence, or to give them a different idea, because everything else it's almost irrelevant. Not irrelevant, but
well, it can be hard too as an outside sales rep if you are on your own for most of the day, day in, day out, week after week. You aren't having that same coworker relationship if you are on the road a lot as you would, if you were in an office environment or an inside sales rep where you have other people to bounce ideas off of, or, hear what they're doing. So that's what your manager and your fellow outside sales reps are there to brainstorm with you.
And sometimes, you give an example too, when you switch over territories, let's say things change around a little bit. You might had some accounts that you switch with someone in your company, and vice versa. You might be hey, what's up with ABC Company? They're oh, ABC Company, you really have to become friends with Becky. Becky, she's this, and she actually runs the show. Becky's father actually is the owner of the company. She got married, so she doesn't have the same name, but she won't let anybody know that. So then you're all right, well, I got to treat Becky like gold. But you do want to, again, swap that knowledge too, and find that out about different accounts. So you can look in the CRM and see, okay, what was the previous person's frequency? Maybe they didn't have the right message then, or maybe they didn't, whatever. But so that's one thing, not getting a manager involved. You don't want to do everything alone. So in terms of managing the territory, you have resources, you have people that can help you out. Delegate when you need to delegate. You don't want to be the one-stop shop. Again, if you're outside sales, focus on that. Which leads to the next thing in terms of not doing everything alone. Don't drop everything for just one call. Sometimes a customer will call up and say hey, I need this, or oh, this needs fixed, or whatever, and blah blah blah. You might have your
You're making noises over there. Are you turning into Chewbacca?
I don't think I'm making noises. We're gonna find out in editing here. But you don't want to drop everything for the call. So just customer calls that I have this, whatever. Some things do have to be addressed right away, but not everything. So you wanna establish that right off the bat, because what'll happen is you drop everything and you didn't need to. Customer's going to do it to you again and again and again, and they're going to be conditioned for that. And then when you absolutely are bogged down and you're not hitting your numbers and you say, I can't do that on time, your customer is going to get upset.
Isn't there a phrase about it? Something that has to do with fire,
I
forget what it is. Something
an emergency on your part doesn't equal.
Yeah.
I don't know. I forget what it is.
Failure to plan on your part does not constitute an emergency on my part, or something like that. That has nothing to do with fire, but...
That's good, because the next thing is if you don't plan in advance. So in terms of planning out your days, planning out your weeks, and looking through and looking at the prior notes from any sort of prior conversation. So in terms of all the R's and everything we had discussed for territory management, for this really applies to everything, whether you have just a set of current customers you have to manage, whether you have prospects where you have a brand new, just growth opportunity or 100% hunter rule, or if you're kind of doing a little bit of both where you manage existing customers that are maximized to the T, you just have to keep that train moving. You have to keep things going, bring in new customers, and again, find those growth opportunities. And again, it's going to take some time to work it out on paper and see like, okay, I need this to hit my number. These are the accounts I need to focus on to do that. And then whatever you think you need to bring in terms of those customers, probably multiply that by 10. Really, a lot of times people say like multiply it by 3.
Yeah.
But at this day and age, you might as well do 10, and you're gonna be way over. But I think that covers everything.
And it gives you a realistic expectation too. If you have in your head like, all right, well I need 5 new accounts this month, so if I just visit 15 people when no, like 50 or this week or whatever.
Exactly.
If you in your head you're like, I need to visit 50 people, and you're going to be pleasantly surprised if 10 of them turn into.
Yeah, 100% absolutely. Because what happens is that
you're going to get defeated if
when you need those 5 and you have 3 and you only have 2 left to call.
Yeah.
That's always when we've talked about this before. When you absolutely need it and it has to come from one account.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
It doesn't work out that way. It's like customers can sense that. They're like, oh, you're close this quarter. You wanted to come from me? I don't think so. And those are the customers that there's going to be a change last minute. The guy that you had rapport with moves to a different department.
Right.
Building sets on fire, and pretty much anything can happen. But remember the R's: routing, resources, research, right timing, reason to go back, be a real person, develop rapport. Pretty much a bunch of R's. That's going to help you get remunerated.
Ratios.
Remunerated.
What's remunerated?
Paid. You're going to get paid.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was going to say ratios. Make sure your ratios are right.
Yeah, make sure your 80-20 ratios are right. And the 80-20 rule. All right.
Does that wrap things up for this episode?
Do you have any other R words?
Remarkable.
Yes, you want to be remarkable. All right, I think that wraps that up for this week. We want to give a shout out to Ben Sound for our intro and outro music. Thanks to you guys for listening. Tune in next time where we'll tackle another topic. Be sure to...
Yeah, make sure you pick up your copy of Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blunt. You can go to pushpullsales.com/fanaticalprospecting to use our affiliate link, which helps our show out. You can view show notes and resources at pushpullsales.com. You can follow us on Instagram at
pushpullsales.
You can follow us on Twitter at
pushpullsales.
And if you want to email us, if you have any feedback or if you want to be a guest on the show, you can email us at pushpullsales@gmail.com. I think that's about it. We'll talk to you. We do have a YouTube page, so if it's easier for you guys to listen to the podcast on YouTube, you can do that as well. If you do pushpullsales.com/YouTube, that should take you there. And we have a lot of great episodes coming up, so make sure that you are subscribed on iTunes. We have some good guests in the works, and I'm excited to share it with you guys.
Thanks. See ya.